Welcome back, my friends. This is Wake Angel 2001 with the other review video, Batten Rouge. My god, there are so many puns in those words. Batten down the hatches, Mrs. Rouge. Or like Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the city. Or, bat. Like, geez, it's a triple threat of puns. Although I am quite happy to note that this figure comes with an accessory. She has a sword. Yeah, I mean, like, why couldn't they put this exact same sword in Black Rose's packaging? Or a katana in, Dr. Dream, or, like, the 20-something Eggman. Like, why... Dr. Deep, right, not Dr. Dreamer, Dr. Deep. Like, why could this sword or a similar sword accessory not be included with other characters who carried swords in the cartoon? It makes no sense. Alright, so, the back of the packaging features a pretty cool glamour shot of her, like, holding the sword downwards. That's kind of a badass. Let's see. Batten longs for the good old days when pirating meant more than collecting coconuts and grilling sea dogs. Yeah, like, Batten was one of the few members of Knuckles the Dread's crew that remained loyal after the rest of his crew went turncoat when he failed to acquire the shard of the Paradox Prism as the treasure. It looks like this wave has the first re-release in it, as it has the New York Sonic again. Why couldn't they give us, like, original Green Hill Sonic? Like, we had Boss Cage Sonic, we had the Grim Sonic. I think they had Ghost Hill Sonic. Huh, I don't think they have his little water running hover shoes. We don't have a No Place Sonic yet. How come they haven't given us a No Place Sonic? They're re-releasing New York Sonic. That kind of sucks. Then it has the Sonic Trooper, which is basically, like the Chaos Metal, but, like the one from the Grimm. And it's worth noting, my friend, this one wasn't in the store, but my friend Zach got it. It's worth noting that despite how similar it is, there's virtually no parts that Sonic Trooper has in common with Chaos Sonic. They look superficially similar, but they are completely new molds with almost no shared parts. Even the ears are a slightly different shape. Like, it's actually quite amazing. Like, even the chest piece. You'd think you could get away with just putting new shoulder pads, but no. Almost every single part on this is completely new sculpting, which is kind of impressive in its way. And then Nux, the New York version of Knuckles, which, again, I didn't have it in the store. I'm not sure if I'm that interested in getting them. Like, I'm always up for getting a new Rouge figure when she comes out, but I'm not sure if I want every single variant of every character. I feel like Nux is kind of like an also-ran. Like, there was nothing fundamentally wrong with him, but out of all the characters, he was probably one of the least prominent. Like, well, I mean, like, the Boss Cage version of Knuckles at least reminded me of Styx, and Knuckles the Dread was actually, like, the lead character from the Nowhere Sea, the No Place Shatterverse. Plus, he actually kind of had the antagonist role, which is kind of cool. We'll get into it once I get her out of the packaging. Let's get her out of the packaging. So here is Batten Rouge out of the packaging. Now, what I was trying to say before I got her out of the box is that in Sonic Prime, each of Sonic's friends has a chance to play the antagonist role in one of the universes. Like, I guess in New York, Rusty Rose, like, you had Rusty Rose and Nine. Let's get to it. In the Boss Cage maze, Thorn Rose was definitely the antagonist. Like, she was an Amy who had been driven crazy by the love of the environment, overriding everything else, including her compassion and loyalty to her friends. In the No Place Sea, the antagonist role was played by that version of Knuckles, who, was the version of Knuckles that was obsessed with acquiring and protecting his treasure and losing his nobility as a warrior and his desire to be a guardian. So, basically he was overtaken by greed. In I guess I can count it as the Grim, but like in New York, Tails got to be the antagonist by being like not having Sonic there to protect him from getting bullied as a small child caused him to grow up as a nihilistic misanthrope who just wanted to run away from the world and, led him to, try and form one all for himself in the Grim. So, like, every character gets to be an antagonist at some point, except for Rouge. Like, in all of the Shatterverses, Rouge is never an antagonist to Sonic. I mean, no more than when, like, Batten Rouge was actually fighting against Sonic because she had been lied to by Knuckles the Dread into saying that Sonic was a traitor, but, then she wasn't standing against him, she just was being misled. So yeah, kind of interesting. I guess it's because Rouge isn't one of the original 4 protagonists. She's a character that was only introduced in the modern era. I guess that's the connection. Although, if I was really going to get any one of the Rouge figures, I definitely would have wanted to get Rebel Rouge, the one from the New York City. Because, like I said, like, if the Knuckles from Boss Cage reminded me of Styx, the Rouge from New York reminded me of Princess Sally. And that alone just is so much points. Alright, that's now talking about the cartoon and the roles of the characters. Let's actually talk about the figure itself. She looks amazing. Like, this is a fantastic figure. Her sculpt and paint job is just top notch. Look at that. They got all the little details of her clothing down to these decorative elements in her short cuffs. The buckles on her boots are there. You can see how her shoes are still heels, even though they're flat in the bottom. They still have like a lift to them. So her high-heeled aesthetic is preserved. She has this little sash thing going around, which kind of limits articulation of her right leg, but not by too much. Again, detailing on her glove cuffs. The buttons on her blouse is all there. Her face looks great. She has kind of like this stern expression, like kind of befitting of a serious warrior pirate. And like everything is here. Like, the only thing that I probably would have went with was putting a little swivel here so you could turn the little thing on the back of her bandana, but that's such a minor detail. Like, everything is on here. Like, even her little bit of lipstick at the bottom of her lip, it's still there. Like, the paint job and sculpt work on this is absolute god tier. It's frankly amazing. Super amazing. And the articulation is no slouch either. Her wings are on hinges so they can flap. And they are much sturdier hinges than the 4-inch regular Rouge figure has. I would love to see this kind of thing go onto a standard Rouge figure. Her head is on a pin disc, so it can swivel, and it could hinge, but the collar kind of blocks it, so it's basically a swivel. Universally jointed shoulders like all the others with some slight detents. Her elbows get almost a 90-degree bend and have a swivel, and there is a swivel down there which functions as a wrist. Although I think, yep, she has a wrist swivel in the glove too, so this is kind of spinning meat in the middle, but like you have that. Her sword, may as well get into it now, looks immaculate. It's dull gray with some slight metal flaking in there to make it look a little bit more metallic. It looks like sword metal. It doesn't look like silver. It's not jewelry metal, it's functional sword metal. And she can hold it very effectively in either hand. Both of her hands are sculpted for holding things. And she just looks effortlessly cool with this in it. I mean, look at that. Just passively putting it in her hand, I instantly made her look awesome. That's just wonderful. It's wonderful. No waist joint. None of these figures really have waist joints. Hips are a little bit limited. You can get a good range for like doing action poses. Like you can get her to get a good splay going on. Knees, solid 90-degree bend in the knee right there. Thigh swivel. Ankle swivel. No ankle ball joint or hinge. If there's a ball joint in there, it's too deeply set to be used as a ball. It's mostly a hinge. But yeah, Everything about this figure is fantastic. She's super well balanced. All of her joints are nice and solid. Nothing is floppy. I mean, there is some issues with the range of her hips, but that has been the only flaw of all the characters in this line so far. Let's bring her next to her companion. You put her next to Black Rose, the other pirate that we've gotten so far, and she blends in quite well with them. They blend in together. They're scaled to each other, with Rouge being taller than Amy, as she is, mostly because of her high heels. But yeah, it's quite amazing. Like, I can't believe how awesome this figure looks. They continue to knock it out of the park with the quality of these figure builds. And I was just going off on a rant about how Thorn Rose did not come with a sword, and you can put Batten's Rouge sword in her hand, but her pinky is a little bit too wide. Her hands are just a little bit bigger, so holding the sword is a touch more awkward. I mean, you can still pull it off. Like, see, look, there she is, pulling off, holding the sword. But yeah, like, it's just not quite fitting. This thing was precisely engineered to fit in Rouge's hand. In Amy's hand, it's just a little bit too small. The finger guard just doesn't go around all her fingers well enough. But yeah, that's unfortunate, but it's good to know that if you somehow get another one of these, you can pull off some sword poses, even with the Thorn figure. Not the Thorn figure, the Black figure. But yeah. Swashbuckling action. So, we haven't gotten any big figures here. Like Big the Cat was in all the Shatterverses as well. I mean, Big was just kind of an also-ran. Like, he didn't really factor in as a particularly important character until they made the gigantic robot Big Mech from Grimm. But, yeah, aside from that, not bad. I'm not sure we really need the bigs, but yeah, like it would be nice to get sales in there, and but really, from this particular Shatterverse, I really need Knuckles to Dread. The version of Rouge that I want the most is Rebel Rouge, and of course the original Prime Rouge, because that is a new look for her. So even if it's supposed to be original Rouge, she at least has a cool new costume. But yeah, like I would really like Rebel Rouge as my favorite of the Rouges, and as my favorite character from No Place, I would like Knuckles of Dread. But that's all depends on how long this line holds out. Are they really going to make every single variant of every character? I don't like how this wave was the first one to repeat a Sonic. I do not like that when they do that. So hopefully they aren't going to make that a standard practice, and we'll get all the variations of every character eventually. But for now, this is Wake Angel 2001 signing off.